Look at your face. Whatever grows there, or doesn't, you have probably called it genetics and moved on. The beard is not random. The pattern of follicles that activate, the density, the coverage, the specific zones where hair grows thick versus thin or not at all, these are not decorative accidents. They are a readout of your androgen receptor distribution, your DHT conversion rate, and the specific way your endocrine system processes the most potent androgen in the male body. 5 growth patterns, 5 completely different androgenic profiles, and the biology connecting them is not what 30 years of supplement advertising or beard oil marketing ever told you. I am starting with the category that carries the most misread biological signal of any growth pattern on this list. Category 1, the DHT shadow. Minimal coverage, sparse growth confined to small zones, upper lip, chin perhaps, with large areas of bare skin where hair simply does not activate. The assumption most men in this category carry: low testosterone. Testosterone is not the primary driver of beard growth. DHT is. Dihydrotestosterone, the androgen produced when the enzyme 5-alpha reductase converts testosterone inside the follicle itself. And here is what that distinction means for this category. A man with minimal beard growth can carry testosterone levels in the upper quartile and produce almost no visible beard because the limiting factor is not testosterone production. It is the activity of 5-alpha reductase in the facial follicles. Think about the last time you had your testosterone tested. Did it come back normal or above average? And did that result make the absence of beard growth even more confusing? The test was measuring the right hormone in the wrong form. The follicle does not respond to testosterone directly. It responds to DHT. And DHT at the follicle level is a local event, controlled by enzyme activity that varies independently of systemic testosterone. Men in this category frequently show normal to high DHT in blood panels while demonstrating minimal beard response. The testosterone is there. The 5-alpha reductase conversion at the facial follicle site is the gap. The bloodstream is carrying the signal past the follicle. The follicle is not receiving it at the local level. Category 1 ends here. Category 2 is the one most men have misread as a deficiency their entire life, because what they assumed was a hormonal problem is something more specific and more useful than that. Category 2, the receptor map. Patches, growth on the chin but not the cheeks, dense mustache, bare jawline, thick sideburns, absent neck coverage, the specific geography of a beard that grows in some zones and refuses others. The common explanation offered is uneven hormones. Androgen receptor density is not uniform across the face. It varies by follicle location, and that variation is genetically determined at the receptor level, not at the hormone level. A patchy beard is not a readout of inconsistent testosterone or inconsistent DHT. It is a map of where androgen receptor density is sufficient to activate the follicle and where it is not. Think about the patches on your own face. The zones where growth is thick, those follicles carry higher receptor density. The bare zones carry lower receptor density or different receptor sensitivity, not different hormone levels. The hormone is arriving at both locations. One responds, one does not. The difference is in the door, not the signal. The clinical implication that almost nobody explains: receptor distribution is not limited to the face. The same principles governing facial follicle response apply to the androgen receptor system throughout the body. A patchy beard is one visible indicator of a receptor distribution pattern that influences hormonal response across multiple systems, including muscle tissue, where receptor density determines how efficiently training converts to adaptation. Category 2 ends here. Category 3 looks like average biology from the outside. But there is something below the surface of average that most men in this profile never think to examine. Category 3, the balanced signal. Reasonable coverage, grows where beards typically grow. Not impressive enough to attract comment, not sparse enough to register as a concern. The category the supplement industry ignores because it produces nothing dramatic to sell toward or away from. The biology here is what balance looks like in the androgen system. 5-alpha reductase activity producing sufficient DHT at the facial follicle, receptor density distributed reasonably across the coverage zones, the signal arriving, the follicle responding, the result landing in the middle of the distribution. This profile's clinical relevance is not visible in the beard itself. It is in what balanced androgen signaling suggests about systemic receptor sensitivity. The same balance that, when present in muscle tissue, means training response lands roughly where effort predicts it should. The specific consideration for this category: the balanced profile moves in both directions in response to the inputs that affect DHT conversion and receptor sensitivity. It is not a fixed position. It is a current reading. Category 3 ends here, and Category 4 is why you have been reading this far. Category 4, the sweet spot. Full coverage, thick, even, fast-growing. The beard that activates across all zones with consistent density. What nobody explains is the biology that produces it. Full, even beard growth requires 3 conditions operating together: adequate 5-alpha reductase activity, converting testosterone to DHT at the follicle level, sufficient androgen receptor density distributed evenly across the facial follicle zones, and DHT potency sufficient to activate follicles across the full coverage area. Think about how fast your beard grows back after shaving. Think about whether the growth is consistent across all zones or whether some areas visibly lead. Fast, even regrowth across all coverage zones is the signature of a profile where all 3 conditions are operating simultaneously. This profile carries the highest androgen sensitivity of any growth category at the facial follicle level. And here's where the beard becomes genuinely useful as a biological readout. Androgen receptor density in facial follicles correlates with androgen receptor density in muscle tissue. The same receptor system that activates the beard follicle efficiently responds to DHT in the muscle cell. The beard is a proxy for a systemic androgenic sensitivity that extends well beyond the face. Category 4 ends here, and Category 5 is the one that changes how you understand why the men with the most impressive beards are often losing their hair at the same time. That connection is not coincidence, it is chemistry. Category 5, the DHT extreme. Full dense beard, significant body hair, and, somewhere in the picture, a hairline beginning to move, a crown beginning to thin. The same enzyme, the same molecule, 2 different follicle responses. 5-alpha reductase activity in this profile is high, DHT conversion is efficient and systemic, and androgen receptor density is elevated, not just on the face, but on the scalp. Facial follicles respond to DHT by growing. Scalp follicles in genetically susceptible zones respond to DHT by miniaturizing. High DHT conversion plus high scalp receptor sensitivity produces exactly the combination this category presents. Maximum beard response and progressing hair loss on the same head, driven by the same androgenic activity. The follicle is not failing. It is responding correctly to the signal it was built to receive. Scalp follicles in the male pattern baldness zones carry a receptor sensitivity to DHT miniaturization that other follicles do not. High systemic DHT conversion simply accelerates what the receptor sensitivity was already predisposed toward. This profile carries the highest DHT conversion rate of any growth category. In tissue that responds positively to DHT, muscle fiber, beard follicle, libido function, the androgenic environment is maximally activated. In genetically susceptible scalp follicles, the same environment accelerates miniaturization. The same engine producing the beard is producing the hairline recession. Understanding both effects as outputs of one androgenic profile changes how you manage both. Here is what 5 growth patterns, 1 molecule, and 1 enzyme reveal about your own endocrine system. The beard was never about attractiveness. It was a readout. Androgen receptor distribution and DHT conversion rate made visible on your face every morning. 2 variables that determine not just what grows there, but how your entire androgen system responds to training, stress, recovery, and the hormonal inputs that build or erode physical capacity over time. The man who assumed his sparse beard meant low testosterone was measuring the wrong variable. The man who assumed his patchy growth was a hormonal deficiency was misidentifying the mechanism. The man who connected his full beard to high testosterone was correct about the androgenic activity and unaware of what else that activity was doing in his system. Your growth pattern was always pointing somewhere. The biology behind it has been documented for decades. Nobody translated it for you until now. If this changed how you read your own biology, share it with a man whose face has been telling him something he never knew how to hear. Subscribe to COSMIQS. See what your eyes can't.